I grew up in Lewisville, Texas. Now, Lewisville, Texas is not the hood by any means. It is a middle class community, but it is not affluent. Okay, it is not affluent in the slightest bit. It's not a wealthy area to come up. And growing up where I grew up, I never really saw examples of hyper successful people. To the extent that for me, reaching 1,000 subscribers on YouTube seemed like an unattainable goal for the majority of my YouTube journey until I hit it. Okay, and the only reason why I was able to hit that goal is because I elevated beyond my surroundings. Now, something that I've noticed amongst a lot of people, okay, especially people who are from the streets, people who are from low income communities where maybe they have a lot of family members and friends in these communities, is that they want to keep it real. Okay, they're more focused on keeping it real with other people than they are with keeping it real with themselves and their potential. Okay, and this is where a lot of people mess up, and I really, really want to get this message out there because I want to see each and every one of you succeed. I want to see each and every one of you fulfill your individual potential. Now, before I really get into the meat and potatoes of this video, I want to share a little story from earlier today. Okay, this was the inspiration behind this video. Earlier today, I went and visited my parents who still live in that city, okay, Lewisville, Texas, the city that I grew up in. And although they live in a nicer part of the city, they still live in that city nonetheless. Okay, and driving up those streets in my new car and everything like that, just knowing where I am in life, I can't help but feel like I don't really belong there anymore. Okay, and that's been a persistent feeling ever since I moved out. For those of you who don't know, I moved to a much more affluent area, okay, a city called Allen, Texas. You can go and look up pictures of the city for yourself. It's not the most exciting city, but it is affluent. That is one thing that it has going for it. In fact, I can drive in pretty much any direction and be surrounded by $1 million plus homes. Okay, these are 5,000 square feet homes with pools in the neighborhoods and things like that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful city. But more importantly, it is an affluent area. Now, that is not to say that you should make all of your moves based on money, but my point is that when you get caught up in where you come from and keeping it real, staying true to that city, staying true to the community that you were brought up in, a lot of times you end up stuck there. Okay, keeping it real is keeping you broke. Back in early 2020, when I first got into self-development, when I first started learning about the law of attraction more specifically, I remember one of the first things that I noticed is that I started hanging around the more affluent areas more frequently. I started feeling compelled to drive out of my way every single day to go to the nice areas. Okay, and I was going 30 miles each way. I'm talking about running up my gas bill with no income because I felt like I needed to go out there to experience something greater. I needed to experience that degree of wealth just to remind myself that it was possible. One thing that you'll notice on self-development is that if you really stay committed to the journey, and more importantly, if you focus on elevating your mindset above all else, not just your body, but your mindset and your overall self-perception, you'll naturally start to gravitate towards more affluent areas. It's just a natural process of growth. Okay, now people may be watching this video and they may say things like, Jordan, you've changed. Okay, and believe me when I tell you that people will probably tell you things like that when you become successful. Thankfully, none of my friends have told me that because none of my friends are negative thinkers in that way. But people might be thinking these things behind my back. I don't know. I don't know, and quite frankly, I don't care. Because ultimately, you have to change. That's the whole point of self-development. How can you expect to grow if you don't change as a person? And when you change as a person, you'll suddenly find that your surroundings no longer align with who you are because you're elevating. When you feel like you don't belong anymore, when you're out with that group of friends who maybe just wants to go drink at a bar and you don't feel like you belong there, that's how you know that you're changing. Okay, and that is a good thing. And that's a whole different conversation for a different video as far as cutting off friends and things like that. But you have to stop giving your loyalty to some territory on a map. Okay, just because you grew up where you grew up doesn't mean that you have to stay there. That doesn't mean that you have to show any loyalty. In fact, the most loyal thing you can do, the best way that you can serve that community is to be an example. Lead by example. Show the people in your community that it is possible to transcend their surroundings as well. That is pressure that I've placed upon myself, is I want to be an example for the people who grew up in Lewisville, Texas. Okay, I grew up in Lewisville, Texas, so I know how it feels to feel like there's really no other path than a traditional college, 9 to 5, or even trade school, blue collar path. Okay, I am proof that no matter where you come from, and like I said, I'm not from the hood, don't get me wrong, but there are other examples for pretty much every city you could think of, but I'm proof that your surroundings do not define your potential. Okay, you define your potential. Your inner environment defines your potential, not your outer environment. Now, like I said, when you change your inner environment, you'll naturally begin to gravitate towards areas that reflect your inner environment more accurately. Okay, so when you have that sense of misalignment with the area that you're in, it's because you're elevating and it's time to make that move. Okay, people always ask me, Jordan, why do you want to move to LA so bad? And it's not even so much that I want to move to LA, it's just that every successful person that I've studied, without exception, every single one of them has spent extensive time in Los Angeles, California. Therefore, I know that that will very likely be a part of my journey. Okay, it's not so much that I really, really want to move out there. It's just that I know that that's going to be a part of my journey. Because at a certain point, I'm going to outgrow the city that I currently live in. Okay, this affluent city with the $1 million homes around me, I'm going to outgrow this city as well. When you learn to separate yourself from your external environment and focus on cultivating a new inner environment and commit to the process of continuous self-development in favor of complacency, that is where you will start to, like I said, gravitate towards the nicer areas. And there's a saying that if you hang around the barbershop long enough, eventually you're going to get a haircut. When you start going to these affluent areas, eventually you're going to find yourself signing that lease deal or getting that mortgage. Okay, you're going to move to that area, and maybe not that specific area. I'm not living in Highland Park by any means, but eventually you'll have the means to do whatever it takes to get to that area, because the subconscious mind works best with alignment. When you have this self-perception that you are meant for more and you hold on to that, you don't let other people deter you from following your inner truth, then eventually your outer world is going to follow. Your subconscious mind will act as a supercomputer to set the coordinates and guide you on the most efficient path possible to that destination. Or if you're a religious or spiritual person, you could look at it as God or the universe opening up the doorway for you. Either way, it works. Okay, when you begin to program your mind for greater things, you will find yourself in better environments. Okay, and to my point earlier today, okay, I also went to this spot that I always liked to go to when I lived in Lewisville. It's not in Lewisville itself, but it's a spot that I associate with an older version of me. Okay, when I was maybe down bad. I was down bad and I would go to this spot on this hill and watch the sunset pretty much every single day. And the view is still just as beautiful as it's ever been, but I couldn't help but feel like I didn't belong when I went today because I've outgrown that. Okay, something that I've realized on my journey is that you cannot receive new blessings in your life if you're holding on to old baggage. Okay, because your hands are full. You can't receive them. You literally cannot receive them. You can't handle them. And even if you try to take in these new blessings while also holding on to old baggage, usually what will end up happening is that you'll fumble everything. Okay, and now you have to start from square one and you end up losing the thing that you were so afraid to lose anyways. Look, okay, if you want to elevate in life, you have to learn to let go of your past. You have to learn to let go of that part of your story with the understanding that a new chapter has arrived and you have to embrace that. You can't keep it real for the rest of your life to these people who really don't even care about you. Because if those people cared about you, if that city cared about you, they would want to see you elevate. They would want to see you succeed. They would want to see you expand beyond the confines, those arbitrary boundaries on the map. Okay, they would want to see you do better for yourself. If people say that you've changed, because you've grown, because you've elevated beyond your surroundings, those people do not belong in your life. Plain and simple. Like I said, I'm very grateful and blessed to have a group of friends who do not ever put that type of energy out when they're around me. They don't put that type of energy out because they're positive thinkers as well. Okay, and that's also why I never gatekeep information from them. I believe that wisdom belongs to everyone, right? And obviously you can't force wisdom upon people, but when you see people around you that are trying to do better in their lives, and you know that you have answers that could potentially help them bridge the gap between where they are and where they want to go, then you should do that. Okay, but like I said earlier, the best way to do that is to lead by example.